58, 59, 60. All right, I have a Ruby Sapphire deck together finally, just based on the cards I pulled in some packs and starter decks. But I think I need some better cards in here to make it a little more competitive. I guess I should just order some. All right, let's see. Hades is pretty good. I'd say he's a blue staple. I guess we might as well pick up 4 of him, right? Oh man, Be Prepared is insane. I definitely need 4 of this guy. Belle can get so much lore. I think she's a must include in this deck, man. So yeah, I should pick up a playset of Belle also. Oh man, Maleficent's so good. Another must include in any Ruby deck. I mean, I gotta get a playset of Maleficent, right? It doesn't look like a lot of sellers have 4. Must be a little hard to get. So you know what? Let's just pick up 2. Let's just pick up 2. And of course, Mickey himself. Brave little Taylor. Probably pick up a playset of him. Alright, so picked up my cards to make this deck the best it can be. Let's see how much it... Oh boy. What's up everybody? Welcome back to another Lorcana video here on Inkspot Games, and today we are going to talk about what should your first Lorcana deck be, or what kind of Lorcana deck do you want to play. And I'm going to be going over a couple little helpful hints and tips to help you choose your first Lorcana deck or color combination or whatever you want. And again, I'm not going to be the one to tell you you have to play this or you have to play that, or I'm not just going to sit here and play, well, find the best deck in the game and play that. No, this is going to be more to help you figure out what kind of deck you want to play, no matter what kind of deck it is. And we're going to be going through a couple different steps to figure that out. But before we start, if you like this kind of content, if you like the Lorcana content, be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, share it to new players even, or even people who have been playing for a little bit, and subscribe to the channel. I'm really happy with how the channel has been growing. I really do enjoy making these videos. With that being said, let's go through it. So the first thing I kind of want to talk about is something we talked about in a previous video, which is, are you a beginner? Now, I'm not going to go through the whole spiel like I did in the last video. If you want to see that, make sure you go find the beginner's buying guide. But I do want to make sure I do hit this. If you're someone who has really hasn't touched the game and you don't know much about it and you're just trying to learn it, I would suggest picking one of the starter decks, whichever starter deck looks interesting to you. And these next couple tips could probably help you decide which one, but that is the best place I think it is to start. Yes, I know prices are a little high right now, but if you want to get into paper play with your friends or at your locals, I would pick up a starter deck. They're pretty competent, they're not the best, but they're the best way to learn this game and kind of get into it on the shallow end and not jump too deep, and really kind of establish yourself with it and learn the ins and outs of the game. So for beginners, that's where I would start. The next thing I want to hit is figuring out what kind of player you want to be. And there's 3 different categories for this. There's competitive, there's casual, or there's both. And maybe you want to do both things to a certain extent. Now, the only problem right now with competitive is that there's not a ton of real sanctioned competitive events out there. In fact, I don't think there's any at all by Ravensburger, but I think there will be in about a year or so, but that doesn't mean that there aren't competitive locals around, and maybe your local scene is pretty competitive. And there's two different mindsets you need to have if you're doing competitive or casual. First of all, if you want to be a competitive player, then you need to optimize your deck, meaning you get the best cards, you run 4 of the best cards, and you build your deck in a way that is just better than the others. The deck is fully optimized, which means you're using staples and like rare cards, expensive cards. All right, that's kind of the price you need to pay if you want to play competitive. Now, casual, you don't really have that problem. Casual, you can really just play whatever you want. But one thing that needs to be understood, where if you are a casual player and you are going up against a more competitive player who has the better deck, or I don't even want to say better deck, the more optimized deck with better cards in it, chances are you might lose that match. And that's something you're just going to have to kind of deal with if you're playing in a tournament setting. But if you are casual, then it is fine, obviously, to play casual Lorcana with your friends or whoever. Like right now, I'm playing more casually at the moment because I only have a limited card pool. I didn't really buy any of the big name staples or anything like that. So you need to decide which kind of player you want to be. And I think that is kind of the basis of where everything is. And we'll get into different things that will play into it in a second, but there are different factors beyond just the cards you're playing that will factor into what kind of player you want to be. The next thing I would like to go over is your play style. Now, when we're talking about different play styles in Lorcana, there's only a limited amount at the moment, but each color in Lorcana kind of has its own kind of distinct play style that's different from the others, or at the very least it does something better than other colors do, and you want to figure out which play styles you want to combine to make what kind of deck. Again, if you're playing competitively, there's a couple different colors you can combine that make it a better deck, a more competitively viable deck. But to figure out what kind of play style you want, you need to have an understanding of what each color kind of does. Like Ruby makes really big characters that can manipulate the board and put yourself in a position to kind of put your opponent in a chokehold and not allow them to outgain you or out challenge you or anything like that. Sapphire, Blue, ramps up on resources very quickly, and they also have pretty big characters that you can play. They also have characters that affect your other characters around them, and that's why, in my opinion, Ruby and Sapphire synergize so well. That's kind of the main deck I play, because in Sapphire you're ramping up on resources, while Ruby has a lot of really good control cards like Dragonfire or Be Prepared that can completely blow out an opponent's board, and Blue has cards like Hades or whatever that can control the board too and let it go. This real control style works very well together, and Blue ramps up resources pretty quickly with cards like the Detective Mickey and One Jump and things like that. Amethyst is a color that has probably the best draw engine in the game. So what's really important in Lorcana, if you want to maintain card advantage, whether it be in your hand or on the field or in your inkwell, Amethyst is really good at drawing cards and keeping card advantage, which is so important against your opponent. Emerald is very interesting because it has a lot of characters that have abilities if they challenge or if they are challenged that can affect your opponent in some way to kind of lose their card advantage. And they also have a decent amount of cards that collect a lot of lore as well. Amber, yellow, ramps up very quickly, also has good bodyguard cards to sort of defend your low cost characters, and your low cost characters can get 1 or 2 lore each, so you can ramp up quickly and win the game very fast. Obviously those characters are weaker in terms of blocking, but if you're able to play your bodyguards, then you can protect them. And I feel like Amber can go with really any of the other colors based on what I've tried. Steel is very aggressive. Steel has characters that have a lot of attack and a lot of blocking and are very aggressive towards your opponent, trying to clear your opponent's board in terms of challenging. They also have some really good removal cards as well. Steel is also very versatile in terms of what colors it can go with. So if you're looking for a more aggressive strategy, then I would say Steel is a pretty good one. Now that we've picked what kind of player we want to be, which competitive or casual, and your game style, your play style that you want to play, now we have to kind of talk about the more, you know, not the most fun conversation to have, and it is unfortunately a big part on how you decide what kind of deck you want to play and what kind of player you want to be, and that is money, how much cards cost. For example, you know, again, like I said, my favorite deck to play is Ruby Sapphire Control, but I can't play that deck, you know, IRL in its full capacity, fully optimized, because so many of its best cards are really pricey right now. So your budget and how much you want to spend on this game, unfortunately, will play into the kind of player you want to be and the kind of deck you want to build. Now, if you're someone who's fortunate enough where money is no issue, then you can kind of do whatever you want in terms of what kind of deck you want to play and your play style. But one thing I think that's very important, and again, I'm not like a financial advisor or anything, but one thing that I feel is very important is figuring out your budget for this game, and that's going to play into the kind of player you are and the kind of decks you build, especially right now when the price of the game is on the higher side. So yes, unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, money does play a factor, but it is such an important part of this to figure out what you want to do. The last thing I want to talk about, which I think is the most important thing, is experiment with the cards, experiment with the decks. You have software where you have full access to every card in the card pool. We've talked about this before. The software I use on my videos is called Pixelborn. It's free. You can get access to all the cards. Again, for a more manual experience, there's also Tabletop Simulator that you can use as well, where it's not so much of a auto sim thing. You kind of control the cards yourself as if you were sitting across a table from someone else. But experiment with these different things, experiment with these different colors and different strategies, and experiment with playing fully competitive decks or playing regular casual decks, and just keep playing the game, and that will help you figure out what kind of decks you want to play. It certainly helped with me, and I think that'll eventually lead to you finding your perfect match and eventually, hopefully, going to a locals and playing in real life instead of just a simulator. But for right now, while the game is still young, experiment, get to know the cards. Even the cards you don't want to eventually play with, you're probably going to be playing against them eventually. So just keep experimenting with those decks, figure out what you like, and I'm pretty confident that you'll find a deck that works the best for you. Look, at the end of the day, the point of Lorcana is to have fun. Yeah, some people, depending on what kind of player they want to be, their version of fun is just being able to win every time, and that's fine. I'm kind of like that too, but there are other factors where I need to be realistic and I can't like just buy all the good cards. They're too expensive right now. I also have fun playing casual games with, more not as competitive decks. Like in a previous video, I did a hero only deck, and I thought that was really fun. And what's cool about deck building in Lorcana is that you can design it in a way to sort of fit what you want. So if you just want those heroes, make a hero deck. If you just want those villains, make a villain deck. If you just want princesses, make that deck. If you just want whatever. This game, you build your own decks, so you can kind of cater to what you want to do. Not all those decks are going to be the best deck, but as long as you're having a good time with it, win, lose, or draw, that's the most important thing. So go on. Hopefully these tips have been helpful for you. I hope you can find a deck you want to play and you can have fun with. And of course, be on the lookout for future product, and who knows, that casual deck you have, maybe with new support, could turn into a more competitive option if that's what you want to do. So that's all I have. Again, any questions or comments, make sure you drop them in the comment section. Like I said before, like the video, subscribe. I keep trying to grow the channel, and yeah. So I think that's it from me for today. So Lumineers, I'll see you on the next one.